Medicine is one of the most difficult, fast-paced, yet rewarding paths you can take. You can set out on your own and navigate the student loans, the bureaucracies, and systems that define a typical medical career. Or you can apply for the U.S. Army's Health Professions Scholarship Program and launch yourself into a medical career like no other. Your tuition will be completely covered, and when you graduate med school, you'll learn from and work with some of the most elite minds in medicine. That's the Army difference. Learn more and apply today at goarmy.com/HPSP.
It's time to unravel the hidden mysteries of the universe. Time to uncover the truth hidden beneath the veil of lies. Time to transport your mind from the perverted matrix and connect with your higher consciousness into the world of the divine paradigm. The divine paradigm. And now your hosts of the Divine Paradigm, Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin.
Aloha everyone, and welcome to the Divine Paradigm on KCOR Radio at kcorradio.com. I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin. Our producer is Tina Marie, and today our very special guest is Elizabeth April. Elizabeth April explores the topics of hybrids, and these are beings who are a combination of both human and alien species. She provides an overview of human and alien past lives, and the fact that we have all had past lives before this one, and that we are the sum of all of our past lives, human or alien. It wasn't until her first conscious abduction at the age of 18 where she started to realize that she herself was also connected to these extraterrestrials through past life lineage. She uses channeling, meditation, and many interdimensional self-portraits, and she finally has come to terms with her connection and the information she has accessed and the reason for her existence. So she's probably 25. I wrote this bio, or I grabbed this bio 2 years ago, and at this young age, she has already experienced more than a lot of people have in a lifetime and other lifetimes. She's become a source of knowledge and truth to many others and has a profound self of sense in Earth's third dimension. She's an old soul, a gifted channeler, and she's chosen to return to Earth to share her knowledge. So, before we bring on Elizabeth, who is a certified life coach, practitioner, artist, and gifted light worker, author, and speaker, what would you like to say, Sasha?
Aloha, April. We're really glad to have you. I've been really into this idea from the earliest times. The people that have had direct contact with ETs, plus the written records, talk about how after the Council of Hatona in the Andromeda group, where the Dracos and the humanoids called an end to their wars, they agreed that they would make a basic human, which would have the contributions of the 12 different species, 12 humanoid species, and the one Draco, a reptilian species on Earth that agreed to this. They would make a basic human, and then they farmed these basic prototypes out and so forth. And from that early time right up to the present, we've been hybridizing. And so there's right up to this moment where we have people that are currently telling us, hey, it's happened. Our kids are hybrids. Sky goes up and nurtures these hybrids. Many of our people that we know directly are hybrids, and for all you know, you might really even be a hybrid, even if your genetics don't tell you that, because they suppress that kind of information. Anyway, I'm really hot on this subject, April, so take it away.
Yes, welcome, April.
Awesome.
Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Elizabeth
thank you.
April Elizabeth. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both so much for having me. I know I've been on your show a few times before, so it's always a pleasure to be back. And yeah, I mean, I love this topic myself. It seems like everyone's starting to really wake up and realize that we're so much more than who we think we are, and essentially who we've been programmed to think we are. So it's so amazing that when I stepped into this concept of hybridization, and really the fact that I myself was a part of this other species and I wasn't just human, I was so young. I was about 18 years old. And at that point in time, I pretty much told myself, I'm never going to be able to tell anyone the fact that I'm this hybrid being. And I figured, I'd be well into my 40s by the time I publicly announced this hybridization that I feel within myself. And slowly but surely, the universe has really been pushing me to express this information that I've been receiving. And one of the biggest messages that I've received recently is that people are ready. They're ready to know the truth and they're ready to open up. And it's just such an exciting time to be on this planet right here, right now.
How did you realize you were a hybrid? Can you back up a little bit and tell our people your story, our listeners your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was, born on this planet with special gifts and abilities, which already, there were certain strands of DNA that were just activated right away, which kind of helped me with the process of life and living and understanding and conforming and being myself. But it wasn't actually until my first abduction at the age of 18 where I started to really understand that I was more than just a human. And, between the ages of pretty much being born and 18, I had slowly but surely started to really awaken myself, understanding the concepts such as time is simultaneous, it doesn't exist, that we all have past lifetimes, that we most likely have karma from those past lifetimes. And it was just a tiny extra step to realize that some of these past lifetimes might have actually been off of this planet. And with a universe that's so infinite, it's actually not a hard concept to really start thinking about. And although, I guess I had contemplated this concept before, it was, during the time when I finally moved out of my house and I went away to university. And that's actually when I got this conscious abduction. And at that time, I was abducted by the species called the tall whites. Now, I'm not from or a part of the tall whites in any sense. But after that conscious abduction, of course, that kind of blew the lid off of my reality in saying, hey, not only are aliens and extraterrestrials real, but they're here. And after that abduction, I actually started having extremely vivid recall and extremely vivid flashback of myself as actually a tall gray Zeta being aboard a giant mothership. And, after that... Can
you tell us a little bit about what happened when you were abducted? Were you driving? Were you in your room? Were you asleep?
Yep.
And can you slow that down and just explain to our experiencers what that was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was 18. I decided to move out of my house. And when I moved out, I was really lost. Of course, every 18-year-old is probably feeling the same thing. And I was really questioning things. At that point in time, I had two options in front of me. Option one, I was absolutely crazy. And everything that I believed and everything that I felt and knew to be true and everything that I saw and experienced was just delusions of psychosis. Or option two was, wow, I'm onto something. And it's actually just the rest of the world who hasn't realized this yet. And so I was 50-50 at this point at 18. So I decided to go away to this 10-day meditation retreat called Vipassana. And for those of you who don't know what Vipassana is, it's seriously like just a retreat that's you and yourself for 10 days. There's no talking. You're not even supposed to look at each other. The men and the women are separated. And it's just pretty much you out in nature meditating and just kind of dealing with your own human. And so the second night in this retreat, I woke up and, afterwards I kind of realized it was around 3:30. And so I woke up out of a dead sleep, and hovering in front of me is this giant white head. And, at first I had no idea what was going on, but in the next moment I was being pulled from my bed and taken out into the hallway. And there was 3 of them. One was holding my left leg, one was on my right arm, and then the other one was on my left arm. And I remember this clear as day. I mean, this memory, for those of you experiencers, it's burned into the back of your brain. And so I was taken out from my bed. We went into the hallway, and then I was pretty much beamed up, I guess, to their ship. The only part about this abduction that I don't recall is the transportation between the meditation center where I was sleeping and the mothership. But once
Elizabeth, how many fingers did they have?
Oh, that's a good question. That's not a detail that I particularly remember.
I'll bet your arm remembers. Wherever they were touching you remembers.
That's right, yes. I want to say 4, but I also want to say possibly 5, which is kind of weird because I'm used to dealing with the Greys who only ever have 4. So I'm not totally sure. I want to say 4 or 5. It was a good grip. I mean, they had a pretty good grip on me. They were fairly humanoid beings, like extremely tall. I want to say about 7 or 8 feet tall. Super gangly. Their skin was so pale that it looked like almost like this transparent tissue. And some of them had like this long, kind of like straggly white hair. And so when I went up on their ship, I was sitting in this metal chair, and there was about 7 of them all standing in front of me. They weren't really doing anything. They weren't even trying to communicate to me. And at this point, I realized that I must have been paralyzed or something was going on because I wanted to scream, I wanted to yell, but I wasn't able to. It felt like my vocal cords were numbed or I was paralyzed or something. And later on, I realized that that's kind of what they do. But yeah, so I was sitting in this chair, and there's about 7 of them in front of me, and then beside me, there was this giant machine, and that's kind of how I could describe it. It was this giant metal box, and it was like this kind of cube-like box. And in the center of the box was this metal cylinder. And the cylinder started coming out. And the closer it got to me, so it was on the right side of me, and the closer that it got to me, the smaller and smaller this cylinder got. And eventually, I knew right away, oh, they must be implanting me. And that was just intuitive. I had never done any research on abductions before this. And this cylinder went right into my ear. Now, even though I couldn't feel, the contact of that, I knew exactly what had happened, just kind of intuitively, telepathically. And so in that instant, I kind of knew that they had put something in my ear. They chipped me in some way or another.
Was that your right or left ear?
That was my right ear.
Yeah, that's where they got me. Right.
Yeah. And so, so then next thing I knew, once again, without the knowledge of the transportation between the ship and the meditation center, I was back in my bed, and, my mind was going crazy, like trying to think about it. But I hopped on my phone. I tried to look up abductions in that location, in that area. I learned that there was like an Air Force base right in the same area, which I'm not surprised. It's literally a center in the middle of nowhere with an Air Force base, which is, prime target location. Yeah. And it was so funny because that day I was like, okay, I could either go home, just in case they come back, or, I could stick it out for the next, 7 or 8 days. And so I actually ended up, and the thing is, it's a silent meditation retreat, which means it's not like I could tell anyone about this. And I was, obviously, as every experiencer, scared of looking crazy, right? So that day, I actually ended up stealing a butter knife. I mean, I don't know what I thought I was going to do with it, but I stole this butter knife, and I didn't necessarily want to hurt them, but I wanted proof. That's really what I wanted. I just needed like a little bit of blood or like some sort of sample that like something tangible. And of course, that's where our mind goes. So later on, so I ended the retreat, nothing else happened. It was all fine. And so I went home, and I ended up seeing this woman who was a channeler, and she was really good. She did interdimensional channels. So I went to her and I asked her, I said, hey, I had this experience. I don't want to tell you much about it, but I want to see if you can just kind of scan my body and see if you see anything. And so, of course, she scans my body and she says, oh, yeah, there's something in your ear. I'm like, okay. And she says, yes, it looks like there's some sort of implant or a chip in your right ear. And she said that she saw the little prongs, and she said it was made of organic material, but she said it was intelligent. And she actually said that this tiny device went all the way down the back of my neck. It went down my spine, and it attached itself to my heart. So it was monitoring my heart palpitations and my heartbeat. And so then apparently this device also went to the back of my head, all the way up to the top of my head, which is essentially my crown chakra. And she said that it was monitoring my vibrational frequency. And I said, okay, well, why? Why did this, why are they monitoring me? Why did this happen? And how she explained it was that she said that, as these ships were just kind of hovering in that area, she said they were looking down at planet Earth, and it's almost like they were looking into a sea of blackness or abyss. And she said amongst the sea of blackness was this shining bright light. And apparently that bright light was me. And so she said, honestly, she's like, they were just really curious as to why you had such a high vibration for a human. So they took me to monitor me to see what I was doing that was different than the rest of humanity. And apparently they'd also put she called it a stamp or a branding on my aura. So she said that there was a symbol that looked like it was like stamped onto my aura, so that other species knew that I've already been claimed, I guess. So anyway, so she took the stamp off. She took the branding off. She removed. She didn't physically remove the implant, but she unlatched it or deactivated it. And actually, the second that she did that, I no longer felt like I was being watched, because every single day, every single moment after that abduction, for like 2 weeks until I saw this woman, I felt like I was being watched by them. And at that point, I was doing lucid dreaming and astral traveling and remote viewing, and I was really, diving into my abilities. And I was so worried that if I was going to leave my body, that something would enter it, because their energy and vibration was so close to mine. So the second that she deactivated this implant, I finally felt relieved and
wow.
alone. Yeah.
Wow, it's so similar to the story that Stuart Swerdlow says, that about being branded, and those who have genes like your genes feel like they owe you, or that you have to be in their service. I've heard this exact kind of framework before. This is wonderful. I love listening to you. Do go on.
Yeah. So yeah, and of course, everyone has predestined contracts to have these experiences. And even though it was quite a frightful experience, and I don't consider those tall whites anyway like too pleasant. They weren't too pleasant to work with. They weren't as compassionate as like humans are. And but I'm so happy that it happened, because it really did open that can of worms of, oh my goodness, they exist. Now, after the chip was deactivated, and I was kind of set free and I was unbranded, all of a sudden I started having these profound flashbacks. And these flashbacks were of me as this completely other species, which once again, I knew nothing about aliens before this. And now I had started having these flashbacks of myself as this 7.5, 8 foot tall gray being on this giant mothership, which was a completely different experience to the one that I just had with the tall whites. And I'll give you a little, imagery of my first ever moment of realizing that I was this tall, gray, interdimensional being. So I was, once again, it was about a month after the abduction. And about 2 weeks after the abduction, I got the chip removed. And then I started having these recalls. And so about a week or two after the chip was removed, I had some friends over, and I felt really exhausted all of a sudden. And I just told them, I said, hey guys, sorry, but I got to go like lay down, like I have to go meditate or something. So I went into the other room and I sat down and I meditated. And in that instant, I was literally astral traveling. I was thrown into this tall gray body. So here I am as this 18-year-old girl in this, 500, 600-year-old wise, tall gray body on board this mothership. And so I was in a smaller room and, of course, very, very dim lighting in the ship. And so I'm like, whoa, this is pretty cool. I'm taking a look around. I'm alone in this room and I'm examining my hand, right? So I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Different body, right? So it's funny that you brought up the hands before. So I'm this tall gray. I'm examining this hand. I'm checking out the 4 fingers that I have and like all the details and like the skin. So interesting and kind of like snake-like. And so as I examine each one of my fingers very closely, this little ball, this little orb of energy, of white light energy, pops up right above, hovering above each tip of my 4 fingers. So I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And then all of a sudden, a bigger orb, a bigger sphere of white light energy pops up right in the middle of the palm of my hand. So I'm taking a look at this, and just instinctively I asked, just in my own mind, whoa, I wonder what these orbs of energy can do. And instantly, I get this almost booming voice coming back at me, which I knew was the gray, which is just another aspect of myself. And the answer that I received was manipulate material. So in that moment, I knew, that these orbs of energy could literally manipulate the very atoms that I was walking on. I could pick up a porcelain plate and crumple it into a ball. I could stretch the very fabric of anything that I touched, and I had that ability. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. And actually, in my whole life, in this lifetime as a human, I always knew I had the ability of telekinesis. And I always felt so frustrated of never being able to fully move the objects I knew I could. So it made a lot of sense, a lot of completion. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense why I've always felt that way. And so, I shake off that energy. So I shake my hand and the energy falls off, and I just intuitively walk into the other room. Now, this is like the most profound moment of my human experience in this lifetime, is me as this 18-year-old human in the body of this wise old tall gray being in a past lifetime. And I'm walking into the other room, and standing in front of me are 3 other medium height gray beings, and they all seem to be examining this man sitting in one of those metal chairs. Now, to my surprise, here I am as a human in a gray body looking at this human in front of me. But the human that I saw in front of me, this man, didn't look like the humans that we see today. This man was anywhere between Homo erectus and Homo sapien. He had a big, big brooding forehead. He had long, straggly brown hair. He was quite hairy, and he was very confused, and it didn't seem like he had any semblance of language. And he was also quite hunched over. He wasn't fully standing up properly. And so, here I am at the dawning of humanity, realizing that I was around for that moment. I was examining humanity before I was ever human. And, that was like the trippiest and the most amazing and profound moment of my life. And then after that moment, I would be walking down the halls of my university, going to class, and all of a sudden I'd have this epic flashback of walking down the halls of this tall gray ship as this ET being. And, through all of these vivid recalls, and I have many more stories like that one, but through all of these vivid recalls, I started to understand that what my position was as that tall gray Zeta being. And what I understood was that I was actually the ambassador for my species in that lifetime. So not only was I a part of that species, but I was actually one of the leaders for about 500 human earthbound years in studying the dawning of humanity and this experiment that we were talking about, this hybridization project, so that I could be here in this lifetime right now in somewhat being an ambassador for humanity at this time.
Wow.
in this life.
This sounds like the Hatona basic human that was created by and the council in the Andromeda group to stop the wars, to be something all species could build upon. This is fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, so beautiful. So yeah, I mean,
First break, but keep going. In about 4 minutes or something. Yeah, 4 minutes. Keep going.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit about my background. I mean, that I have to say that's just skimming the surface of the information that I have downloaded. And if you could imagine, from being that awake at 18 years old, to what I've done in the past 6 years is, it's just so many pieces of the puzzle have been coming in about why we're here and, what the awakening is all about. And seriously, the awakening is about the next generation of human, which I believe is the hybridization.
Yeah.
Right. And we find a lot of people are finally discovering the true nature of their multidimensional selves, and that they have these many incarnations in different form. And since time is not, time is a limitation of 3D reality, but it's not a reality for all of existence. You can simultaneously be in many other forms, many places, in many times. So that's wonderful. So you worked through that, and you're the bright light that they saw in amongst the darkness. So you came down here. You are the ambassador, an ambassador, with a mission here, and we'll talk about more of that after the break. But you're an ambassador. And so you were here in the hybridization program, I guess, with a species that was pretty primitive and not totally conscious. So who are you an ambassador to? Is there someone that's your equal that you can speak to tell the message of your species? And I'm just going to leave that kind of hypothetical for the break. But what did you want to say, Sasha, real quick?
Oh, man, I'm just so turned on to what you're saying. You just feel so congruent. I just can't wait to hear more.
Right.
Awesome.
So, I just want you to not necessarily go into a long answer on that, but just contemplate that while we go into the break. Like, who else are who would you be telling this information to? Because apparently that species wasn't conscious and aware enough to understand what was going on with them. So what's that mean to be an ambassador? And are there other ambassadors? And have you met them?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. It's time for a break. You're listening to Divine Paradigm on KCOR. We'll be back in 6 minutes.
You are in the Divine Paradigm with Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Some call it the height of human civilization.
Share your thoughts by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide colors use Skype name KCOR Radio. More positive potential revealed in the exploration of the paranormal after this.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network. Broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
It's time, once again, to unravel the mysteries of the universe by connecting the dots of the higher consciousness.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Become part of the show by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide colors use Skype name KCOR Radio. Tweet your thoughts anytime by using hashtag KCOR.
It's my favorite thing to do every day.
Escape the Matrix and join the conversation live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now, back to Divine Paradigm with your enlightened hosts, Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin.
Aloha, we are back. Janet, Sasha, Elizabeth, April, and did you want to say something, Sash?
Just we were just struck by what happens when you're an ambassador is that you're branded. Your aura or your signature somehow gets branded, and whoever brands you thinks that you owe them. you're working with them now, and so that's where
that was
we
a
were.
Different species. I think you're mixing that up.
No, I think they all do that.
Okay.
I think they all do that. And what happened in the Council of Hetona is each of the contributing species just wanted their particular genes to outweigh the other ones. And
Let's
so we have these quarrels
ask
inside.
Elizabeth, do you know more about this ambassador program? This hybrid form you're in now, is it part of that first species or second species or both or other species? Back to you, Elizabeth.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think just as Sasha was saying at the beginning of the show, we're all a combination of many different species. So we're all just this giant kind of mutt of a human and experiment. We all have more dominant species connected with different interdimensional beings. Like, for example, like my more dominant DNA structure is of a gray, even though I'm this tiny little like 5'0" human. I do have that intellectual property that the grays have. So I'm definitely more of the grays than any other species, but we all are this combination. Now, the ambassador ship that I was talking about is pretty much the fact that I have been this leader and this ambassador for the tall grays and just the gray species. And I call them the agreeable grays because, of course, we all know there's also the disagreeable grays who aren't so nice. But the agreeable grays are actually here to help save humanity. And it's really been contested for so long that the grays are just not nice. And a lot of people have the experience of, very much so either disagreeable grays, or a lot of humans have a fearful experience. They don't know how to handle that. And they just chalk it up to the fact that something was being taken from them or they were being disrespected, when in fact they agreed and had predestined contracts to be a part of this hybridization program. And that's why we have the grays taking and abducting humans more so than many other species who are also around humanity. It's because the grays... Yeah.
Excuse me for your train. I want every car in your train, but But I know that you mentioned that your history is in the Zeta Reticuli group, and we know that the Zetas saved our ass from the Nazis, and that they actually had an ambassadorial exchange with the United States. And our ambassadors, 12 Americans, lived in one of the planets where the Greys lived, and 4 of them lived the rest of their lives, as they said, in the northern part of this planet where it was sort of like Iowa, and they loved it. And some of them came back, and they sent us an ambassador that helped us. And so that what you're saying about the Greys being friendly, we definitely have really good records of at least that contact.
Good. Yeah, good. Some people get kind of freaked out, and they have a lot of different opinions about the Greys. But I mean, what my experience with the Greys is that we are only here to help awaken humanity to get to the point where we're all in acceptance that our next evolutionary step is this combination between humans and gray beings and these Zetas. And we can see it within the Essassani species. I mean, the Essassani is essentially the future of humanity. So this is a big part of why I'm on this planet at this time. And I pretty much came before everyone was awakened. So I kind of like, I decided to be born at a certain point in time so that I can kind of help the rest of humanity get to the place of conscious awakening and third eye opening so that we can all be aware of who we are and why we're here at this time. And so, after the awakening, after we all realize this, and after we all realize that, we are all interdimensional beings in one dimension or one parallel reality or another, then and only then can we really take that next step and introduce the fact that, hey, now, we're going to be introducing this hybridization program to humanity on a one-to-one basis and actually bringing the hybrids down. And I believe that, in our lifetime, and what I've channeled, especially from the mantis beings, who I'm also fairly well connected with, I've channeled that the hybrids in the physical, so these Essassani beings in the physical, are going to be on this planet anywhere between 20 and now 40 years from now. So this is kind of where we're at in that evolution.
Essassani, can you spell that, Elizabeth? You say
the Essassani, yes. Hold on,
can you spell that?
ESS. ISANI, something along the lines of that. It might have another S included in it. Do you know the channeler Bashar or Daryl Enka?
Yeah, so Bashar is talking about the Essassani beings?
So actually, Bashar himself is an Essassani being.
Okay.
That's the species of Bashar. So Bashar comes through this channeler Daryl Enka, who's a human, and the species of Bashar, who Bashar is actually an Essassani. So Bashar is the future of humanity.
What do they look like? And what are they? Humanoid? Are they gray?
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah, they're a combination. They are so beautiful. They typically have like really large eyes. They have smaller heads than grays. Most of them don't have hair at all because they was really difficult to get that right. And it's amazing. The grays and the humans combined together really take best of both worlds. So in a lot of ways, the grays are missing some key elements of humanity. A lot of that is like expression. They're very happy to have the physical facial expressions now within the Essassani species. They also brought back their sex organs because the grays had lost their sex organs for a very long time due to cloning and, just kind of science and more so cloning and the fact that it just wasn't needed anymore. But they really lost that connection to source through things like tantra and those kind of humanly expressions. So they're really happy that they got that back. The Essassani, so these hybrid beings, their IQs are through the roof. So the average IQ of an Essassani is around 200 points, where I'm not sure where the average of humanity is, but I know that we're maybe the smartest of the smart is about 140. So the Essassani are incredibly bright, incredibly intelligent. They're spiritually intelligent. Their technology is intelligent, and they're also emotionally intelligent as well. They have emotions. They can express them, but they don't have to let their emotions overrule them. And actually, I think you guys are really going to love this because this just happened last week. And this is exactly what we're talking about. So I was, last week I was sitting down and I had this reaction. And I think everyone's been really challenged with reaction recently. At least I have, and so have all my clients. And so it's just all our shadow stuff coming out right now, just all the old purging energy, just the old energy that doesn't serve us. So anyway, so I was really reactionary and I started crying and, I'm like, okay, guides, like, help me. Like, why do I have these emotions and why do I have to deal with this? And like, why do I don't want to be human, and I was just kind of ranting, in my human state. And so all of a sudden there's this beautiful, so I'm sitting in my meditation chair and I'm crying and I'm sitting there and closing my eyes. And all of a sudden, there's this beautiful white light Palladian being who shows up in front of me, this Palladian male. And so he says, let me show you something. Like, do you trust me? And I feel out his vibration. I said, yes, I trust you. Show me whatever it is. So he takes me on board this mothership. And this is in real time because sometimes we're talking about the past, sometimes we're talking about the future, but this is real time. So he takes me on board this mothership. which I consider in a lot of ways my own mothership, because, I was the ambassador of it for so long, and other beings recognize me there. So anyway, so he takes me to this mothership, and we go into this really tiny room, and he just kind of throws me into the room, and then he leaves, right? This Palladian guy. And then, so in this room, there's this long metal table, this long rectangular metal table, and at the other end of the table is this medium height gray Zeta. And then on one side of the table is I would say if you were to like change the metrics and put it into like human years, it would be a 30-something-year-old Essassani hybrid. So it was a female, a half human, half gray. So sitting at the one side of the table, and then across from her was this 30-something-year-old human. So here we have two females, one's Essassani, the future of humanity, and this other is just this woman who was picked up and she's part of the project. And then there's this gray, this full-on medium height gray who's also in the room. So there's those three individuals, and they're obviously all like next level conscious awareness. So I astral travel, I pop into the room, and all of a sudden all eyes are on me. And it's funny because I'm used to astral traveling places and no one seeing me ever. But because they were so awakened and aware, they saw me. They saw exactly, my astral self. And so they asked me, they said, oh, hey, like, why are you here? We weren't expecting you. And I said, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm really emotional. And, I'm this gray human hybrid, but like I'm a human, and like I'm just so confused and I don't know what to feel. And they said, oh, perfect. Well, you've really joined this session at the right time. And I said, oh, okay. And so this is all a telepathic conversation. And the instructor, which was the gray, was giving me this information. And he said, you joined the session at the right time. And he said, we're actually just having a discussion. And I'm asking these ladies questions and they're giving me answers. And it's really interesting to see the different views of the Essassani versus the human in the same kind of category, same age group kind of thing. So I said, okay, cool. So he said, here's the next question. So he poses this question to the ladies, and he says, what is your view of planet Earth? And the human woman said, oh, well, planet Earth, like it's so confining and there's so many rules, and I feel like my consciousness is always suppressed and there's so much war and violence and negativity, and I just don't want to be there. And then, and that was all telepathic. And then it was the time for the Essassani being to step up and this woman to kind of, let us know her thoughts. And she says, well, I do agree, and I do believe that there's a lot of corruption and destruction on this planet. But I also believe that there's so much hope and there's so much room to grow, and there's so much of these seed planters who are ready to foster a new earth. And I'm so excited to be there to foster this beautiful vibration energy. So right away, I'm seeing the difference, And then the next question, the next question was really for me. And so the instructor then posed another question. And he posed a question, and he said, okay, so what is your view of emotions, of human emotions? And I said, okay, this is going to be good. This is going to really help. And so the human woman, once again, she says, well, emotions are really tough, and I really don't like emotions as a human. And I find that most of the time, my emotions control me. I'm in control of my life until I have an emotional breakdown, or I have sadness, or I have guilt, or I have judgment. And all of these emotions, they distract me from the truth, which is consciousness. So my emotions control me, and I'm out of control when I'm feeling these things. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, that's where I'm at right now, And then it was the time for the Essassani woman to speak up. And she says, I find that emotions are actually a portal. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And she's like, I find that emotions are actually a portal and a gateway to the soul. And she says, I've learned and I've understood that emotions in excess will take us away from source. But emotions in the right amount will actually bring us closer to ourselves, which in turn brings us closer to source. And and she says, I'm so excited to use what I've learned with emotions and to present that knowledge and information to humanity, so humanity can also learn to work with their emotions appropriately and understand how to get closer to source. And that was really just kind of that key moment that I needed to just kind of bring myself back down and say, look, emotions are great, but overreaction, I mean, anything in excess is not so great, and it actually lowers our vibration and brings us down when we are in overreaction of emotions. So anyway, that just happened last week, and that's a little bit of a story from, the hybrid project and how things are going and the whole flow of things and my part within it all. So yeah, so that's, I mean, once again, like I have these experiences all the time. I mean, because I was the ambassador of my species, and essentially that species at that time and since then has only ever been around this planet Earth for this planet Earth's awakening. So I have a lot of information on what's going on, who's a part of it, what happened in the past, and what's about to happen in the future. So just a lot of information there. But I find that once a month, I'll actually go travel to the mothership and I'll talk to the current ambassador. And because people recognize my vibration there, it's almost like everyone can look the same, but their vibration is different. So you can just tell who's who. So everyone recognizes my vibration as this old ambassador, which means that I pretty much have unlimited access to any information that I need access to. And that's why I'm in the position I am in on this planet at this time. The more people I reach, the more awakening and the more knowledge and information I can share to this planet from what I gain access to. So once a month, I'll go over to the mothership, I'll check in with the ambassador, and I'll say, okay, what does humanity need to know this month? What's going on? What can I share with my network, and hopefully, and hopefully that just spreads.
Hey, let me ask you something to ask then, because your logo is Ea, which is the name of Enki or Aquarius, and my sources say that the Anunnaki and others are here for the age of Aquarius, for the Sati Yuga, that's what's coming down. And when you have a name like EA and you're putting it in your logo, I just know you must have fractals of Enki, Adonai in you. Am I getting you right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've experienced life on this planet as almost every single species who has been a part of the creation of humanity, including the Anunnaki.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Great. So this ambassador, so there are many ambassadors. There's a ship. You go on once a month. You get an update. I do the same thing. I'm reporting. I go to other planets. I go to big council meetings. Yep. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. I was really struck by your example with the humans. And so this human, she must be important, even though she's kind of got a limited perspective, because she's there having this intellectual discussion with several different species. Do you have any idea who she is or what her role is?
Yeah, actually, there are many. There's a surprising amount, and I actually just got a number, and the number was around 10,000 on this planet who are part of the same role. So everyone is like categorized and like, okay, what is your role in the awakening? And there's about 10,000 of individuals like her who are all providing their human perspectives. So they're not providing body parts, they're not providing pregnancy, they're not providing anything physical. They're actually just providing their input on what it is to be human, which is pretty cool. And I think after a long while of, working with humans and really abducting humans for the purpose of, creating this next hybridization species and moving forward with that, I think it's so great that we're actually starting to care what they think and what they feel and and all of that in their opinion of, okay, well, if another species were to come down, what would you think about that? And we're actually starting to ask them those questions and get their opinion on it, which is far beyond any physical research we could do.
What was behind the need to hybridize humans in the first place? Is there something flawed with the human species? Will the human species continue in its original form, or will they eliminate all human beings in this current variation on the theme that we now are using for our incarnations? What's your idea on that?
Yeah, great question. So they will never take humans away from their bodies. The Greys are very particular about not invading other individuals' free will. No matter what body you're in, you have a consciousness, and they're unable to invade that free will. And that's a very, very clear rule that I have in my own life as well. I could channel anyone, but I have to get their permission for it. So, so just to kind of sum up, the hybrid, sorry, I totally lost the question.
What I was asking is, what was the need to hybridize humans in the first place? Were we in danger of going extinct?
Were they?
Yes.
Were they in danger of going extinct? Yes. Are we flawed? Something that need to be corrected?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Also, the hypothesis that what the ambassador from Serpo said is, you guys are messing around with atoms and you're messing up our travel and everything else, and you got to cool that.
Yeah, well, let's just stay with this first question. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, humans are a little bit flawed. The Greys are a little bit flawed. There's a little bit of both going on here. And the humans are flawed. We're way too emotional. We're way too violent. And we're a little bit way too reptilian. We've got that fight or flight mentality that we have to deprogram. And the reptilians, I don't know if you guys have been tracking that as well. They're leaving the planet right now in droves. They're being kicked off of this planet because the vibration is way too high for them. So that's happening, which is fantastic. So I mean, if we were left to our own devices, I do believe that we would probably kill ourselves through nuclear warfare, because we're just not as awakened as we need to be. So the hybridization project is expanding our technology, our spirituality, and our awakening. And then, of course, the hybridization is also helping to complete and heal and help the Greys, because they are dying and they have manipulated their genetics way too much. And they need to know how to cool it off on that as well. So a little bit of both. And I think the balance of both
also,
is
this
so perfect.
species isn't really from here, because, I mean, we go in the sun and we burn. They probably need a better species. Oh, we have 1 minute to break. We have to pause right here. I'm sorry. Yeah. We'll be back in 3 minutes. You're listening to Divine Paradigm on KCOR. Back in 3 minutes.
You are in the Divine Paradigm with Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Some call it the height of human civilization.
Share your thoughts by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More positive potential revealed in the exploration of the paranormal after this.
How do you like your radio? A little strange, a little scary, maybe a little maze-mo, just for good measure? Well, then tune into After Hours AM right here on KCOR Digital Radio Network. Every Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, we take you on a journey between the strange, unusual, and sometimes downright scary. Again, that's After Hours AM, broadcasting right here on KCOR Digital Radio Network, 3 p.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Eastern, every Monday night.
Hello? I can't hear you, but you can hear me, right?
Now, hang on, I want to make sure I understand. So a non-citizen can go over to a hospital and walk in and get emergency treatment. That never happens here.
What happens? Jobs are created. Guess what happens? The economy grows. Then you have more people paying taxes. Do they not understand?
I don't want to hear any more about Islam. I don't want to hear one more word about Islam. Take your religion and shove it up your behind. I'm sick of you.
Fatigued by the identical mind-numbing viewpoints up and down the dial?
You fat pig who lies on his back all day, demanding that everybody else subsidize them. What do you do, jerk? All right.
Well, listen to the master of provocative insight, Dwight Lilly, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Whether it's local or national news, Dwight has his finger on the pulse of the nation.
So now you've got a case where Cliven Bundy, in an interview first broke in the New York Times, his comments are beyond repugnant to me. They are beyond despicable to me. They are beyond ignorant to me.
The Dwight Lilly Show, never restrained and always opinioned. Talk without the fluff.
The world is about to change forever.
Get your weekly dose of truth every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern, only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Please make a note of it. It's great.
Thursday nights are about to get weird on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Join hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz as they go exploring the bizarre. Jet across the cosmos with two of the most electrifying paranormal researchers in the known universe. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Exploring the bizarre takes you deep within the world of the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology. It's time to take back the night with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. Exploring the bizarre. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
It's time, once again, to unravel the mysteries of the universe by connecting the dots of the higher consciousness.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Become part of the show by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide colors whose Skype name KCOR Radio. Tweet your thoughts anytime by using hashtag KCOR.
It's my favorite thing to do every day.
Escape the Matrix and join the conversation live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now, back to Divine Paradigm with your enlightened hosts, Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin.
We are back, Janet, Sasha, and Elizabeth. Sasha, what did you want to say?
Well, okay, so this is really great because we really have in you, Elizabeth, somebody who can access information that is so fascinating to some of us. And what I asked just before the break, during the break, and I think we should bring it up here, is I said, could you ask the wisdom that you're able to connect to, whether what the Serpo Greys who sent their ambassador with something called the Yellow Book had said, namely that they had sent Jesus to humanity, and that was their doing. They were part of that process, and I mentioned that. Would you please ask your sources about that? And so that's what we'd like to share with you now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just kind of channeled it. And what I received was that, Jesus, just like many other ascended masters, was just a very high vibrational consciousness. And I don't really believe that Jesus was ever originally a human. I believe, just like you two, that Jesus was a very strong interdimensional presence, intergalactic, universal, whatever you want to call it. And, where the Greys went right is that this consciousness was expanding exponentially until the point of popping into a Grey lifetime. So it seemed like sometime before Jesus was Jesus or manifested as that being on this planet, he was actually one of these Grey beings, and he was given this book of information or this download of information to present to humanity. And during that Grey lifetime, Jesus decided to come to this planet as Jesus, essentially, which is so interesting when I channeled that, because And this is very similar to my own story, not in comparison or anything like that. And I definitely wouldn't call myself an ascended master. But, when I was this tall gray ambassador, I remember sitting around this oval shaped table with my advisors, and that's what I call them, my advisors. And it was just me and another tall gray who were the ambassadors at the time. We both had our advisors, and then we had our council. So I was sitting with the advisors, the other ambassador, and the council, and it was at that point in time where we decided that I was meant to come to this planet at this time, being born in 1992, to once again kind of present this information to humanity and to be one of the many teachers that have decided to once again come to this planet. Because, I'm not alone, and we are all a part of this consciousness in one way or another. And there are many interdimensional ambassadors on this planet at this time, and most of them aren't even consciously aware that they are these very interdimensional, powerful beings. So I've taken it upon myself in this lifetime to really open people up to understand that, hey, you don't have to have a conscious abduction to understand that you are this interdimensional being. So, I hold workshops and retreats and one-on-one sessions helping people understand who exactly they are, where they're from, and why they are on this planet at this time.
Wow. I'd like to say that, everybody that's heard this, your intellect has taken this in. And you can now connect with your ambassadorship and what you have to share from wisdom that goes beyond that which you're conscious of up to this moment. And it's now more available thanks to Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening, is that people are becoming conscious and aware. But the more these stories are out there, the more they activate people when they become aware that there's things going on within themselves that are not limited to this 3D human avatar. My question is, you said that you had your awakening in 18, but I'm getting that you had things going on long before that. Yeah. So what do you think of that? Are you aware of anything now about what happened before?
Absolutely. I was actually taken between the ages of 3 years old and 6 years old multiple times. I'm not even sure how many times, but it was a lot. I was taken physically on board a ship, and I was sent into this hybrid school, I guess. And it was a school in teaching us, and there was many other children in the same classes. And we were all being taught about really in-depth concepts, quantum physics, global political economy, the way that the society was structured. We were taught about environment. We were taught about Mother Gaia, Mother Earth, what she's doing, her vibrational frequency. We were taught about collective consciousness, polarity consciousness, unity consciousness. We were taught about all of these things. And I just read last night, this book on hybrids. And they were talking about this implant that went into someone's tongue or underneath their tongue or something. And I remember when I was about 10 years old, maybe it was earlier than that, maybe 7 or 8. And, I woke up and I had these marks on my tongue and a very, very, very funny taste in my mouth. And that just kind of sparked it. Wow, I have been chipped and implanted and taught at such a young age and given a lot of that information in that book, the Yellow Book, to present to humanity. And now I'm slowly but surely unlocking those keys of that awakening and information. And I've always had certain abilities like seeing auras and chakras and colors and ghosts and spirits and things. But really, the ability that I love the most is clairsentience, which is just all knowing. And I remember when I was about 10 years old, everyone would ask you, oh, well, if you could have any superpower in the world, like what would it be? What would it be? And I remember for a solid 5 or 10 years, my answer was always the same. And I didn't even know what it meant at the time, but my answer was all knowing. I want anyone to ask me a question anytime, and I want to be able to have the answer right there without ever having to do any external research. And here I am at 25 having the ability to just tap into universal source consciousness and really gain access to information beyond space and time itself. Go
ahead, Sasha.
Okay, so that what what we got from the MJ12 releases and stuff that Len Kasdan showed me was that the ambassador from Serpo was this beautiful woman, ultimately, who the leader of the American 12 that went to the other planet and so forth, they hinted at, sort of fell in love with. Were you that ambassador? Were you one of the ambassadors that was there for the presentation of the Yellow Book?
Right. I guess. Did you come down?
That was you.
Before in the you came here in '92 to this forum. Are you aware of intervening in human history before '92?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very consciously aware of many past lifetimes on this planet. And almost every single lifetime that I've been on this planet, I have been in a position to teach, to heal, and to spread as much truth, knowledge, and awakening as possible in many forms, in high priestess and monks and prophets and yogis and philosophers. I have taught the information that I have. And I do feel, I haven't gone into that lifetime that you mentioned. It is sparking a lot of emotion in me, actually. I just got this heat wave just when you mentioned her name. And I feel like I was around during that time. And it feels like very much so like ancient Atlantis and ancient Lemurian times, during that of like the creation and the understanding of where humanity is going. And so I feel like I have been, kind of put in these very profound moments of human history to observe the way that humanity reacts to certain events, to see where our consciousness is propelling us.
So what's going on now with all these hurricanes and strange politics? Can you give us some insights into what's happening and why it's happening and what can be done about it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much that's going on right now, but really it comes down to the epic polarity between dark and light, right? So just, if you just think about science and quantum physics, it's all right there. It's higher vibrations versus lower vibrations. And it is quantum physics that states that two vibrations of a different frequency can simply not coexist in the same space. This is some of the stuff that I'm taught as this hybrid being, is quantum physics. And so what I was told by the Palladian Council, that's a part of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I was told this back in January of 2017, I was told that there is this huge splitting of realities. And there's a modern term for this, and it's called the Mandela effect. Now, I don't want to go into it too much because we don't have a lot of time, but really what's happened is that the polarities of the dark and the light were competing at such a rapid rate that it actually tore a hole in the quantum matrix field of this very reality. Therefore, this one reality separated and created two parallel realities, which, believe it or not, we as humans are hopping in and out of all the time. Now, what this means is that this planet is trying to purge the old energy. And the old energy, I mean the lower vibrational frequency. Who created the lower vibrational frequency? Some dark forces on this planet. And I don't want to just say reptilians because, as you were mentioning, Janet, I believe that we can't just categorize one entire species. And I believe that the reptilians, just like the humans, have both good and bad within them. They have positive and negative, like every species out there, but they are part of this major suppression that we're experiencing. And we've been controlled for a very long time. And now it's so exciting. We're in very exciting times through all of the destruction and the environmental collapse and the political collapse. We're in a time of big awakening, big realization. And what's happening is that the darkness or the lower vibrational frequency can no longer exist on this planet. And the higher vibration is happening and expanding at such a rapid pace that this planet and ourselves have to purge anything that is not serving us. So the natural disasters are Mother Gaia, Mother Earth, purging the land and clearing out some of the stuff that just doesn't serve her. And I don't want to target certain locations, but I do want to say that, I mean, this is just the beginning of what I have seen in some channel downloads as far as the transition of the awakening. And I think that just as Mother Gaia is purging her energy and all of the old stuff and wiping clean her land, we as individual humans are also purging all of our old energy and anything that doesn't serve us. And right now, what I've really channeled and seen in a lot of my clients and a lot of individuals is that we're actually going through a lot of karmic release. So we're going into past lifetimes. We're being challenged by old energies. We're being challenged by karmic lineage and Akashic records to just release, so that moving forward, we are no longer under the laws of karmic alignment and connection, because karma is what's really kind of trapping us here on this planet. And so as we release all of our past lifetimes, we're completely opening up to what the future holds, which is not exactly what we've ever seen before here on this planet, other than back in ancient Lemuria and ancient Atlantean times. We're kind of getting back to this unity, this Christ consciousness. We're getting back to one. And that means that we have to rid ourselves of anything that doesn't serve us. And as much as I don't like Trump, I do believe that he's a part of exposing the corruption. And now, because of him, everyone is questioning everything. And before, we just didn't see that in politics. And that's actually what I studied in university, which was global political economy. I studied politics. And I'm so happy to see that everyone was so blindly leading each other and just saying, okay, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, to every single politician and every leader that we've ever had. And now we're actually seeing the corruption exposed before our eyes, and everyone has to question the nature of their very reality. And this right here, right now, this is the beginning of a major shift in consciousness, a major awakening.
Right. So these things are catalysts, like for Houston, we just the weekend before had this huge conflict about race and, in Charlotte. And so with Houston, people were just going beyond racial barriers and rescuing each other, helping each other. Yep. They went beyond the politics of immigrants, and that fell to the wayside. And that was in Texas, where Texas was voting to get rid of the immigrants and have very strict laws. So that seemed to be a major catalyst. And then Trump, he's I don't like Trump at all, but he's a major catalyst, and people are starting to question what's going on. And so we just need to stop and look at the system. I think that the current political systems, none of them are all that great, and that we need to look at the extraterrestrials to see what systems they have and how to govern entire planets, because each planet is a cohesive force. We are in one great world, one great planet, and we can't just think in terms of I'm going to do this over here and pollute and not have an effect across the planet. And that's the same with the universe. We can't blow up bombs, nuclear bombs here on Earth, and we don't affect the other dimensions and things like that. So we have to start thinking as one on all levels.
Yep, completely.
Yeah, go ahead. Come on.
Okay, yeah. So I guess I'm feeling a little bit like Alexander talking to the priestess at Delphi. But I would really like really very much to know if you could go back, since time is so fluid, and change the circumstances that brought us to be trumped down this terrible path and split. Can we go back to can you alter the conditions of the past in a way that makes the present nicer?
It's really interesting. I've played around with influencing the past and influencing the future, and it's I've got some funny stories regarding that. But Absolutely not. I am unable to, as much as I have a lot of power and abilities, and actually I have a lot of, the green light to kind of do what I want to do. That is just something that I can't do. And the reason being is because all of us here needed to experience the corruption in order to really move forward with like a pure light. Like everyone's like predestined contract to be on this lower dimensional planet to learn these lower dimensional things in the worst way possible. That's why we had to experience violence and corruption and negativity and blindness and, not being so aware. Like, this was all just in alignment for this planet and for the people on this planet. And, the ETs and the guides and the higher ascended masters would never change any of it just because it was bad. We have to experience the negative in order to step into the positive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We are the sum total of all things that have happened. So in order to love yourself, you have to love it all. So in some way, it's all divine perfection. However, I think that individually you can go back and rewrite the past in like your own mind, and past is as fluid as the present, the future.
It is.
So but you can't do that for somebody else's free will. So each person does it individually. Exactly. And we're here because we're here. I mean, we're here because this is what we chose. This is all perfect. We chose. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but I get it too. Okay, so we're almost out of time here. Let's see, what's our final? So you said the reptilians are leaving, or this negative energy is leaving. Who are the negative people leaving? Are these the people that have control of the world government, the Illuminati, so to speak? Then how are they leaving? Are they taking off on ship? Are they?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've channeled is that a lot of the control does come down to, those top 5, richest families or whoever you want to call them, Illuminati, dark forces. I've seen that a lot of these individuals are being controlled or taken over by dark council of reptilians who have been here pretty much since the dawning of humanity. And I've channeled this going all the way back to ancient Egypt when they were actually walking around with the Anunnaki, with humans, which is a really cool time to go back to if you ever want to, experience something cool. But so I've been watching them for quite a while, and I've talked and communicated with them plenty of times, and I know what they're doing. And it was about 2 years ago, I confronted them, and I had about 16 other light workers, and I told them that they can no longer be doing what they're doing and really just sucking the life force out of humans. Now, once again, this isn't all reptilians. This is a select few who just feel like they have the power, and they feel like this planet is originally theirs when, it is and it isn't, because they have been natives to this planet long before humans. So there has been a lot of control there, but what's happening is that these beings who are controlling humanity at this time have a lower vibrational frequency, which means that they are no longer able to hold their form. So a lot of reptilians are shapeshifters in human form, and what that means is that if they can't be on this planet because of the vibration, then they're actually shifting in and out of human reptilian. So they're no longer able to be in human bodies or to control humans because the vibration is just too high for them. But of course, as you were mentioning, Janet, there are also those reptilians who are on this planet who choose the light consciously, who have higher vibrations, who are absolutely able to be on this planet at this time and to enjoy the awakening. But the majority of the reptilians who are here for the control and the suppression of humanity and to take what they think is rightfully theirs. And they're no longer here. They're leaving. And like I said, I want to say there's about 20%, 25% of the controlling force of the reptilians still here. The rest of them have left in the past 2 years. And they've essentially been kicked out because their vibration. So they're going to either the underground, so they're going underground under this planet, or they're just astral traveling right off of this planet, and they're going to somewhere that's more home for them.
Isn't there a point where the veil will fall and we'll all realize that we chose our different roles in this incredible passion play, and that the beings that chose to be the dark demonic forces are actually in some way all the heroes because they pulled the polarity to the farthest extreme so that we could have the totality of experience in order to diverse existence?
They signed up to be the villain.
I love that. Yes, I love that. That's what I believe as well. Like, they're helping us see the light because they are taking up the polarity. I completely agree with that. I would say that they are the humans in a way. So it's beautiful.
Wow. So we have just a few minutes, 2 minutes to close. Tell us what we need to know about you.
And when are you doing your workshops? I'd really like to go to one sometime.
Your presentations. Are you going to speak at any more events?
Yeah, absolutely. So no speaking engagements coming up thus far. I'm really just kind of saying no to a lot to work on this book because I do believe that this is what people really need to know. So I'm working on the book. If you are interested, if you resonate with the information that I have and you're looking to just kind of awaken yourself, then I do recommend going onto my website, elizabethapril.com. Check out my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my Facebook. All that information is out there for you. And then you can book your one-on-one session right off of my website. And I do Skype internationally.
Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Much love and blessings and aloha. You're listening to Divine Paradigm. KCOR.
In 3, 2, 1.
Until next week, we must leave the world of the divine paradigm. But always remember, you all exist on more than one plane or dimension. And there is a shift coming. A shift to universal consciousness. A shift to the divine paradigm.
Divine paradigm. Divine paradigm.
For more information on the divine paradigm, as well as the hosts, Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin, please visit their website at aquarianradio.com. Divine Paradigm, live every Tuesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Your transformational future is at hand.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. This is your daily pep talk. I know it's been rough going ever since people found out about your a cappella group, Mad Harmony, but you will bounce back. I mean, you're the guy always helping people find coverage options with the Name Your Price tool. It should be you giving me the pep talk. Now get out there, hit that high note, and take Mad Harmony all the way to nationals this year! Sorry, it's pitchy.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.